I've said before that I've always had misgivings about Season 2 of The Last of Us, because like anyone who played the game, I know exactly what it's leading to. And the first episode seemed to bear out a lot of my concerns, a tedious slog through trite interpersonal dramas and angsty teen romances. Ellie's gay, by the way. A poorly explained conflict between the two leads that will only make sense if you've played the games, a lightweight action sequence that reduced the infected to more of a mild inconvenience than an existential threat to humanity, and possibly one of the most insane fight scenes ever committed to film. So it was kind of a cautious, underwhelming start to the season that didn't give us a whole lot to grapple with. Episode 2, on the other hand, is where shit gets real, and boy does it get real fast. But how does it compare to the game, you ask? Is it better or worse? And can it possibly make the overall narrative of The Last of Us Part 2 work? Well, grab your bigot sandwiches and let's find out together, shall we? Now, obviously this review is going to contain all kinds of delicious spoilers for both the show and the game, and if you don't want to know what's coming up, then go take part in something more enjoyable. Like an exorcism. Anyway, the episode centres around two major events. A mass attack against the settlement of Jackson that provides a neat distraction and forms a kind of apocalyptic backdrop to the big character moment of the show, which is the death of Joel at the hands of Abby. Although, in honour of Game Abby and the fact that they clearly couldn't find an actual human being of, her proportions, I'm going to refer to her from now on as Mini Gigantor. Anyway, the gist is that Mini Gigantor and her band of not-so-merry men have tracked Joel back to his home in Jackson, but because the place is heavily fortified, there's no way they can fight their way inside to get to him. But what to do? Mini Gigantor doesn't have any fucking ideas, so she goes off to stand on a mountain for a while and freeze her arse off while she ponders the improbability of female bodybuilders in a post-apocalyptic world without access to steroids and HGH. The irony here though is that if they'd just observed the place for a while, they would have realised that Jackson basically has an open door policy when it comes to refugees, and they probably could have bluffed their way inside and killed Joel at their leisure. Luckily for them though, and for the convenience of the plot, the mountain comes to Muhammad in this case when Joel goes out on patrol and just so happens to run into Mini Gigantor as she's being attacked by a horde of the infecteds.
What a stroke of luck!
Unable to get back to Jackson, the group takes shelter in the lodge where the rest of Mini Gigantor's group are holed up, allowing her to get the drop on him and savagely beat him to death just as Ellie arrives to witness it. So far, so Last of Us Part 2, but how does the show compare to the game? Well, the interesting thing is that it's actually both better and worse depending on your perspective here. First up, I'll give you the positives. One of the biggest and best changes is the big set piece battle in Jackson, which never actually happens in the game, but provides a much needed kick in the arse for this season and a reminder of how dangerous the infected actually are in large numbers. It's well shot, epic, visceral, action-packed, and for once, the human defenders actually make smart use of their resources. Mostly. I'm not sure about the resolution though. I mean, once the infected break into the place in large numbers, it really seems like they've been overrun, but when we cut back to it at the end of the episode, the defenders are mopping up the last of the infected with no clear indication of how the tide turns. All this is really just window dressing though. The more important change is the confrontation between Joel and Mini Gigantor, and this is where things are going to get contentious. See, the showrunners are clearly aware of the criticism levelled at the game and the generalised hatred for Abby as a character, where she basically just shows up and kills Joel without any explanation. Here, there's a much more obvious attempt to develop her motivations and show a more human, vulnerable side to her right off the bat. The actress does a great job with the material, really selling the idea of a loving daughter out to avenge the death of her father, and overall I empathised with her a lot more than I did with the game version. Which isn't exactly difficult. I've empathised more with things floating in my toilet bowl than that big slab of beef. The setup has also changed slightly so that Joel is paired up with Dina on patrol now, who gives away his name in the heat of the moment and tips Mini Gigantor off that she's found her man. Again, a small change, but an important one to make Joel less of a fucking moron. That being said, it's still frustrating as fuck that he doesn't even attempt to justify his actions from the first season when he's given ample opportunities to do it. I'm not saying it would have changed her mind or anything, but it might at least give her pause for thought if he'd said, "I'm really sorry, but your dad was about to murder an innocent girl that I cared deeply about and I didn't want to kill him, but it was the only way to save her life, and if you were in my position, you'd have done exactly the same thing, young lady." Oh well, having Joel just sit there in silence while young women blame him for stuff that wasn't his fault is one of the hallmarks of the second game, so I guess there's no reason not to shove it in here too. Like I say, little decisions like these do help to correct the mistakes made by the game. Unfortunately, they come with their own sets of problems. Giving Mini Gigantor a clear motivation right off the bat and drawing out Joel's death means that the shock factor is gone this time around. Basically, everyone who's been following the show knew exactly what it was leading to, and so there's no element of surprise to his death now. It's just something we all knew was coming. Likewise, having a realistically proportioned actress playing Abby makes her a much more believable and vulnerable character now, which definitely helps the audience empathise with her. The downside is that Caitlin Dever is only like 5'2" and looks like she weighs about 100 pounds soaking wet, so how can I put this? She's not the most intimidating antagonist you'll ever see. In fact, most of her gang absolutely tower over her, so it's kinda hard to buy her as this hard-driving, intimidating leader that they'll follow to the ends of the earth. The bigger question though is, where exactly does the show go from here without Joel to anchor it? Much as Pedro Pascal has become a double-barreled meme for his habit of showing up in absolutely everything and being possibly the worst dressed man in all of Hollywood, one thing you can't deny is that he's a pretty good actor who brings a certain charisma to most projects he's in. Without him around, it's really up to Bella Ramsey to carry the show now and... well, I think you can see where I'm going with this one. Her version of Ellie is nowhere near as likeable and compelling as her game counterpart, and with nobody to play against and balance her out, it does make me wonder if the worst thing about this show will end up being its fucking protagonists. I don't know, man. Up until now, we've wondered if The Last of Us was going to follow in the footsteps of the video games, or course correct in response to all the criticism. It's currently doing a bit of both, but definitely leaning towards the former. Time will tell if the gamble pays off. Also, just a little reminder that there's about 10 days left to go on the Trial by Fire Kickstarter. We're well past our initial funding goal now, so we're pushing really hard in these last couple of weeks to reach our stretch goals so we can produce more and hopefully more ambitious and complex short films. So if you'd like to support independent film projects and make all our creative dreams come true, the link is in the description. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.